Oh, great. So all of you are very excited. You know, so when Addy was speaking about me, you know, I think a lot of you would have been fooled into believing that I've always been successful, you know, and that's not the case. So today I want to share my journey with you. And through that journey, first you'll get to know who I was, right? I was, for a large part of my life, I've been a very, very average person, a loser at times, right? But things changed at some point, right? And I want to, through my journey, I also want to share my learnings in the business so that, you don't make the same mistakes that I made. And hence your growth could be much faster than mine, right? So to tell you a little about myself, I come from a small town, a relatively remote part of this country, a town called Muzaffarpur. And I come from a middle class family, a hardcore salaried background. My father, grandfather, everyone has been a government employee, you know. So the value systems that were imparted was study hard, get a good job, do well in your job, get promoted. So that's what I heard growing up. But I was a rebel, and I guess it had to do with the fact that I lost my mother very early, when I was in school, and I guess I felt that life was unfair. I was angry, and I became a rebel. I was those kids who were always in trouble, and every colony there's one kid, right, where the parents tell their kids don't play with this guy. So I used to be that kid, right, and very average in academics, in fact, below average. And my all my cousins, everyone was exceptionally brilliant in academics. And in a small town, you are evaluated basis your academics. If you're good at studies, you get away with anything that you would have done, right? But if you're average, you're like, pointed at, picked on. So all my cousins went to IITs. They were all brilliant students. My own sister, I've got a younger sister who's a doctor. Again, she was a topper all throughout, gold medalist. She's in Sydney. She's a neonatologist. And, so I was clearly the black sheep of the family for a very long time. And, I finished my 12th. These days, I see kids are very focused. By the time they're in their 7th, 8th, they know what they want to do in life. I finished my 12th and I had no clue what I wanted to do in life, right? And in fact, I dropped a year after 12th because I didn't know what to do. And my father's an engineer. He wanted me to be an engineer. Now, what I want to do, I have no clue. The only thing I knew, I don't want to be an engineer. Why? Because my dad is asking me to. So, rebel, no? So that's how I used to be. And I ended up doing my bachelor's in hotel management. Now, don't ask me why. I have no clue, right? I guess it was because I happened to visit that college. And I saw the crowd of the college, good-looking people from both genders, having a lot of fun, no academic pressure. So that's how my career decision was made. I said, yeah, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. So you're getting the point, how I was, academically very... In fact, I had 57% in my 10th. I don't know if any of you would have had lower than that. I doubt it, right? Now, and I entered college, my undergrad. And that's where I met Shantanu Kaul, who was equally lost in life. He also was just like me. No clue what he wants to do. And anyway, we wouldn't attend classes. We would have fun. I mean, those 3 years were great, my undergrad days. And bunk classes, zero seriousness about career. In fact, I'll tell you, when we were in our final year, we had these campus interviews that happen. And there's the Oberoi hotels, which was the most prestigious back then. And for an interview, they didn't come for campus interview that year. They called us to Bangalore. They said, you guys send, your students to Bangalore for the interview. And Bangalore was very different back then. So Bangalore was the pub capital of India. We Brigade Road, MG Road was happening. So me and Shantanu and some of the other people, we went there. And guess what? Next day is the interview. We partied the entire night. We couldn't wake up for the interview. So basically, that's the kind of people we were. Yeah. And then thankfully I got a job because hotel industry, I think there was a shortage of staff. So I was hired by the Taj Group and I started working in the hotel industry. And I used to work for Taj Bengal, Calcutta, right? And back then, I'm talking about 1997. I'm guessing a lot of you were not born then, right? So back then, staying in a five-star luxury hotel, it was a very big deal. You had to be like really successful in life to stay in a fancy five-star hotel, you know. So I was in front office. So I used to interact with these people, and hotel industry was a very low paying industry. So I remember my salary was 5,000 rupees in 1997. So it wasn't a very bad salary, but because 5,000 rupees, I saw there were other people who were working in the hotel with that salary. They managed to even save, right? I was the sorts who would, by the 20th of the month, my salary would be over and I would have to borrow to make, ends meet. So, and then I started noticing, I said, till the time I was in college, it was a different world, right? I was being provided for. I was living on my dad's money. Now, when I started working, that is when I entered the real world, right? Now I'm earning, I can't take money from my father. I have to manage with my salary, right? I started understanding that this is not a great profession to be in. Sorry, no offense to people in the hotel industry. I mean, things are very different today. Back then, it was a very low paying industry. And one is the pay. Second is what was I doing? Right? I was trying to just keep the guests, limited few people happy, right? Running around, ensuring that they are comfortable. And I saw my managers were doing exactly the same thing. So I started thinking, what am I doing in life? Right? And the exposure, it's all about exposure. Now I was exposed to people who were living in these hotels, successful people, right? And I started noticing their lifestyle. I started looking at the finer things, noticing it, how they would travel, the kind of clothes they would wear, the kind of, I would be standing at the reception and two people come and they're talking to each other and they're talking about how there's $1 million deal that they're going to crack in the meeting today. Right. And I used to wonder, and that's where I started questioning. I said, till when am I going to do this? Right. I also want this kind of a life. And I started questioning, how do I get that kind of life? And, thankfully for me, I used to chat up with all these people who would stay in the hotel. I was good at making polite conversation with people and making friends. And I used to get friendly with a lot of these guests who would stay in the hotel. And especially these long staying guests, people who come and stay for a long time, 2 months, 3 months, they come on a project. So with them, I would get very friendly. Right. So I remember there were two people in particular I got very friendly with. One used to work for Citibank, one used to work for Standard Chartered. And incidentally, both of them, they started counseling. They said, why are you wasting your life in the hotel industry? You look like a smart guy. Why don't you get into banking? Because, the banking, there was a revolution happening in the banking space back then. A lot of banks were coming into India, private banks. And, and I bought into the idea. I said, I think that is if I want this kind of a life, probably banking is the solution, right? But now to get into a bank, I need to do an MBA. And to actually get into a good bank, I need to do an MBA from a good institute, for which I would need to clear the entrance exams, for which I would need to study. And I had never studied in life, right? So, but yeah, I think I thought about it and there came a point when I took a decision. I said, no, I think I will have a decent shot at this. Let me give the entrance exam, right? And I started preparing for it. And initially, there were challenges. Hotel industry was very taxing. So I would come back from the hotel and I would be tired, right? And I would open my book to prepare for the entrance exam. and I'd fall off to sleep in 10 minutes. So I realized that this is not going to work. Clearing an entrance exam to a premier institute in India is very tough. It's very competitive, right? So I finally I realized this will not work, and that's the first major decision in life I took. 4 months before the entrance to the premier institutes, it's called the Common Admission Test (CAT), I quit my job and I went back to my hometown, right? And when I was quitting my job, all my colleagues in the hotel, they said, "Why are you doing this?" And they knew me, the kind of person that I was, non-serious, bad at academics. And they said, "Be real. You're never going to make it. You have people who make it into these institutes are people who are academically brilliant. They've been brilliant all their lives. They've studied for years, right?" So a lot of people tried discouraging me. I think the only person who believed in me was my dad. He said, "Okay, if you're sure, quit your job, come back." Right. And I quit my job and I went back to my hometown. And for the first time, I actually studied, because it was a decision. It was unconditional. I had quit my job. I'd put everything at stake. And I was very clear that I wanted to change my life. Right. And I started preparing for the entrance exams. And I had a list of 10 institutes that I wanted to get into. I made it to one of those 10 institutes. Right. And then suddenly things changed. Everything changed actually. The kind of people I was associating with. Now I was in an institute where my batchmates were all toppers from, academically gifted people. So everything changed, right? And I finished my MBA and I became a banker. So the dream tick of first getting into one of the institutes that I wanted to get into, that happened. Next was getting into the banking industry. So again, another dream tick. So my first job was with Citibank. And I worked with Citibank for a few years. And then I moved on to Standard Chartered. Right. So the two people who had inspired me to take up banking, I worked in both those organizations. So dream tick, because in my head, Citibank and Standard Chartered were the banks to work for. Right. And post that, eventually I joined Barclays. And this is when Barclays was entering India. So I was part of the project team, as Adi mentioned. We launched operations. And Barclays, the good thing about Barclays was it was a very generous paymaster. They had a clear-cut strategy: handpick the best talent, overprice them. So that was the retention strategy. So basically, no one else could afford us. Right? There was no one else to go to. So I worked with Barclays, and I spent about 5 years with Barclays. And by the end of it, I was the product head for the cards business, and I was a general manager there. Now, I'd still not thought about entrepreneurship, honestly. I was happy with the way things were. I was doing well in my job. Not well all the time. At times I was frustrated, but yeah, overall I was happy with where I was. And that is when someone I had hired into Barclays, right? His name is Anand, and he was reporting into me. He got into QNet. And he came to office one day, and incidentally, I was the first person he spoke to. He said, "Boss, brilliant business. We can make a lot of money together." And I tried understanding. First mistake he made, he just gave me too much of information. And I said, "Look, sounds like network marketing." So to cut a long story short, I was not interested. A, I was not even interested in a business, and B, network marketing, out of question, right? But eventually, 9 months later, I signed up. Why? Because I saw Anand, he was doing well. That was one. B, my circumstances changed. So 9 months later, when I saw the plan and I thought about it, and I said, why would I want to do this? And it became very clear, right? Two reasons, right? First, we were on the family day, right? And my wife, who was, again, she's an MBA from XLRI, she was doing very well in her corporate career. She was the HR head for an FMCG company in India. And she decided to become a full-time mom. She said, for a few years, I need to take a break. I want to be a full-time mom. So from a double income, no kid status, we were moving to a single income, one kid status. So we had a fancy lifestyle, right? And I realized that now there's a kid that's coming in our life. So I need to start saving. And we never really focused on saving money. We had a good life, but never really focused on too much of savings, right? So I realized that I need to earn more. So that was one reason. The second reason, when I understood the model, the more important reason was time. See, we all have our own currencies in life, right? For me, time has always been my currency. For me, that my time, me time, has always been very important. Why? Because I'm passionate about a lot of things. Like I'm passionate about music. I'm crazy about sports, as Adi was mentioning. So I'm one of those people who, will watch a match live, then watch the highlights, then probably read up on it and have a discussion around it. So I am, and I'm a travel junkie. Me and my wife, we share this passion. We were avid travelers, right? So, when we started our corporate careers, we were actually able to balance everything. We would go to work, we would do everything. But with every promotion that me and even her, we kept getting in our respective organizations, time at office kept increasing. As responsibilities go up, the accountability goes up. You start carrying work home, you start, you know, and also time in office kept increasing. So in my last role as a product head, I would enter office at 9 a.m. And more often than not, I would leave office at 9 p.m. So that was my life. And this is so far I was okay with it. But now, like I told you, now we are on the family way. And I started questioning, I said, if this is not going to change, and it was very obvious to me that it would not change. Because my boss, his life was worse than mine in terms of time. Right. He spent more hours in office, he was under more stress. Right. And I could see where I'm headed. He was at a very fancy pay pack. So money was not really the main reason, because money would have come, right? But I realized I'll never have time, right, to follow my passions, to spend time with family. I'm going to be a dad, and my son would have probably grown up calling me uncle, right? Because I didn't have time. And that made me take this decision. And I said, yes, let me start. But, when I started, the first challenge was I to build this business. Like all of you have started, right? Now, all of you are doing something or the other. Some of you are salaried, some of you are running an existing business, right? Now, when you come into QNet, now you have to take out time, and you're not used to that. Additional 2 to 3 hours a day that one needs to give. So I had a hectic work front, right? And 2 months into the business, I was blessed with a son. So now commitments on the family front. My wife expects me to come back straight from work and spend time with family, right? And all of us have something or the other, right? So while it was very clear that this is probably the way out, and I was somewhere certain that I am going to do this at some point, seriously, right? But I just kept procrastinating. I just kept saying that maybe next month, maybe 2 weeks later. Right now there's a project in office. Let me finish this, then I'll start giving time into QNet properly, right? Right now some relatives visiting, let me finish this, let them go back, then I'll start giving. And at some point, I realized that perfect time that I was waiting for will never come, right? So again, I took a decision. I said, I have to now, come what may, I have to take out time for this business, right? Which meant, because I realized that my life is going to change from here. The other things that I was spending time on would not change my life in the long run, right? So I was focusing on critical things, missing out on the important things. And again, a decision was taken that now, come what may, I have to start giving so much time consistently to this business, right? And once you take a decision, everything gets figured out. And that became priority for me. Those 2 to 3 hours a day started with that 2 hours a day, right? So I made changes at my workplace. Basically, it was a mental change. Stopped gunning for an A rating. Period. I said I'm okay with the B rating, okay with the C rating, but I'm not going to stay in office till 9. I started leaving early. Set expectations with my boss. Boss was okay. He said, okay, fair enough. But I knew he's not going to give me an A rating. But that A rating would not have changed my life, right? So I started putting in time gradually, and then the business started. I started learning. There were challenges, rejections, all that, whatever challenges everyone goes through, right? But somewhere that decision had been taken, right? And I don't take too many decisions in life, but once I take a decision, you know, so I started consistently. And the good part was, so I've shared a lot of you know my journey, a lot of you don't. But I'm blessed that, when I started doing my business, all my uplines were in Mumbai. VP Sachin, Bijoy Dada, VP Sharfun, VP Dev, right? And I was lucky that I got exposure to all of them. I would go in the evening, sit with them, and my mindset started changing, you know, and I didn't even realize what was happening. Just some discussion with them, I would chit chat, and suddenly I started thinking differently. So from a hardcore 97 percenter, slowly that changed. Every meeting with them would change me by a degree, by a bit. I started seeing the big picture, right? And business started growing, right? And eventually, at some stage, I took ownership. I started traveling to Delhi. Like Adi was mentioning, every week I would travel to Delhi to build the Delhi market. Then that grew. Then Bangalore, started traveling to Bangalore every week. That grew. Then started traveling to Dubai every month. That happened. And then, and finally I reached a stage where I was comfortable. I started maxing out on platinum rank, and that's decent money. That's good money actually, right? Compared to what I was earning in my corporate life. Despite the fact that I was working for Barclays, but that pay was nothing compared to what I started making in QNet, right? And that's where the complacency started coming in. That's when I said, "Chalo, I'm sorted now," right? And I started delegating things, and it was probably not very conscious. It just happened. So maybe, this person, he can take care of this. That person can take care of this. And that delegation, and what I didn't realize, that delegation started happening at every level. And very soon, business from here, it started moving down, right? And it came to a point where suddenly income had dropped. Not suddenly, over a period of time, but income had dropped drastically, right? It was actually a precarious situation. Some intervention was required. Otherwise, it was moving towards a collapse. So all my hard work of so many years would have probably, been for nothing. And that's when I made a call to VP Sachin. Now, VP Sachin he was in Dubai, he was building Vietnam back then. And while I had interacted with him in the early days, but for a long time, we were not really in touch, as in not in close touch, right? I would talk to him at times. And after interacting with him, so I started having a lot of realizations. Now, when the business goes up, there's a reason why it goes up. When it goes down, there's a reason why it goes down. When nothing is moving, it's stagnant, there's a reason why it's stagnant, right? It's important to understand what are the reasons. Because till the time you don't, you'll never figure out, right? So let me share with you my learning. So first learning is something which I had right in the beginning itself, right? When I started my journey, right? There's never a right time to do this business. And I'm saying this because I interact with people day in and day out with my teams, with all of you, right? And I get responses like, right now I'm a little busy. From next week, I'll start doing this, right? Trust me, I've been there. There will never be a right time, right? I get responses from people like, my cousin is getting married. He's a very close cousin. Next month, once that is over, I'll have time. Bro, even if it's your own marriage, you still need to be consistent to your activities, right? So what we do is, I'll tell you, again, it's not a very conscious thing, right? So what I was doing is, I was giving stories to myself. Constantly we keep feeding ourselves with a lot of bullshit, right? And we keep justifying it. No, I'll do this, next month. We're just procrastinating, right? The problem is when we start believing our own bullshit. That's a problem, right? So most of us actually, we start believing. We genuinely start believing that right now is not the right time and the right time will come. It will not come. I can give it to you in writing, no matter what the circumstance, right? Something else will come. My project in office would get over, something else would come, right? Right now, I'm blessed with a kid. After some time, my kid will grow up. More time will probably be required. Something or the other will keep coming. So the decision is now. It's now. There'll never be a right time. That was my first learning in the business, and I see people struggling with this day in and day out. People come into this business but never like go full on because we keep waiting for the right time. Right? Another learning that I realized, and especially once I started interacting with VP Sachin, again, a few years back before COVID hit, and started closely working with him. So I had a lot of realizations. So there are three things that one needs to have or build on to become successful in this business, right? In any business, in anything in life, there are three things, right? First is the mindset, right? Now, mindset, I think, was not a problem for me once I got active into the business because, and I was regular to the system. So how does mindset get built? Attending the systems, listening to the speakers come and, they talk about their journey, their vision, reading books. Again, when you read a book, basically it's the mindset of the author that you are getting exposed to, right? You spending time with uplines. Again, like I told you, every interaction, some change would happen. I would start slightly, my thought process would become a little more like my upline, right? So that's mindset. Now, mindset, I don't think mindset is too much of a problem. Now, I'm telling you, basis my interaction with people. Because the good part is most of you are attending systems. You are spending time in association. You are interacting with uplines. So gradually, mindset is getting built, and you're reading books, you're attending events, BI, VCon. I hope all of you done your VCon registration. If you haven't, do it, right? That's how mindset gets built, right? So one is the mindset. Second is the skill set. Now, again, skill set is again the easy part. But it's important. See, every business, every industry, there are certain skill sets required to do it effectively, right? Like in credit cards, for example, I used to handle card sales initially. So there's a skill set, how you pitch, what do you do, how you close. So these are, but again, skill set. So how does one build skill set? Just by doing it, period. The more you do it, the better you will get. But not just doing it, also counseling, taking guidance. Because I see a lot of people who've apparently been making a lot of info calls, but still no good responses coming. Or some people apparently doing a lot of invites, but no one's really turning up, right? Why? Because again, to build skill set, you need guidance also. If you're doing an info call and if you're not getting a feedback, how do you know what mistake you're making? How do you know what you need to improve? Right? So again, now the good part is we're in this business where we have all the tools to build this. We have trainings, we have V-cells where you learn, right? The best part is you have an upline who's there to listen to your call, to give you a feedback at every step. Don't do this, don't say this. This is how you handle this objection. At every point, it's there, right? All you need to do is just plug in, right? Utilize it, make the most of it, right? So when I'm talking, I want you to assess what are the areas that I need to improve in? What am I not doing right? See, if your business is growing very fast, maybe you're doing most of the things right. But if it's not moving, or if it's not moving at the pace that you would want it to move, then I'm sure there are a lot of areas where that improvement is required, right? So question is, are you seeking guidance? Are you consistent? Because again, skill set, like I said, the more info calls you make, the better you will get, because the more situations you'll come across, the more learning will happen, right? Sachin Tendulkar became the best all-time batsman because he practiced that much more, right? Vinod Kambli had a much higher potential, but Sachin's work ethics, he practiced that much more. He faced every kind of a bowler, every kind of delivery, and he would constantly keep doing it again and again and again. And he kept getting better and better. Right? So ask yourself, are you doing that? Right. So again, this is again the easier part because it's actually no brainer. If you keep doing it again and again and again, if you keep, you have an upline who'll call you. Okay, the bridge is opening at this time. Come. Now, what more do you want? It's like spoon feeding to at its utmost. Right? Just need to plug in, attend, make those calls, and you'll keep getting better. And the more plans that you line up, the more plans that you go through, attend, the better you'll get at taking a plan. After 10, 12, 15, this is how we learned. Kept doing. So our skills, if you ask me, my skill was not a problem because once I started off, I became consistent in my activities. So there was we talk about 5 POT in a week. There's no 5 POT concept there. No one ever talked about that. But in my head, I created my own benchmark. One plan a day, right? And if I have to do one plan a day, it takes a lot of time, effort. There's a lot required to ensure that one plan a day, right? So I started counseling. I would call up Dada. I'd say, yeah, I spoke to this person. Now what to do? So I kept going up the learning curve. Every day one plan. So I kept getting better and better and better and better and better. Right? Very soon I started taking plans. Very soon I started. So skill set. So there are so many things that skills required to do well in this business. You may have just started, but eventually, if you're thinking ahead, you're thinking big, right? Tomorrow you'll have a huge team that you're handling. Do you know about the products? Do you know how to extract e-cards? Do you know how to do a welcome? Tomorrow there's a sign up in your team. Do you know how to do a welcome? And do you know how to do ABPQ? YNM? Right? So by doing it, attending it again and again, skill set will happen. The system is already in place. But the third thing that is required to be successful, and that's what I really want to talk about, is character. Right? Building the right character. Now, what is character? I mean, various definitions to it, but let me simplify it. Character is basically, your attitude towards something. Once you've decided, how consistent are you? Right? How diligent are you? How perseverant are you? How resilient are you? If you say something, you take a decision, and suddenly you start facing challenges. Do you give up or do you continue? Do you figure out what to do, how to do it? That is character, right? And I tell you, I was talking about why my business came down. Now, when I look back, especially after discussion with VP Sachin, I realized that, yes, I did a lot of things right for the business to go up. But one place where I think I messed up was I did not build the right character, right? Yes, I was goal oriented. I was doing things. Let's make money. Let's achieve this. But bringing in that consistency, once, let's say I would meet a goal, something would get achieved. Suddenly, my work ethics would take a hit. That consistency would go down. And till the time you don't build the right character, you might see success. Ho sakta hai, it's possible. But it's not sustainable. It will not stay. Right? You look at any successful, immensely successful entrepreneur throughout. They all have the right character. They have all three: mindset, skill set. Obviously, skill set, even if they don't have, they figure out, right? But most important is the character. You look at Bill Gates, Narayan Murthy, you name it. Look at our very own VP Sachin, right? I'm telling you, I am amazed with him. And he's, till date, I've known him for 13 years from the time I started the business. Till date, there's not been one instance where he has committed something and not done it. That is character. Now, do you think he has too much time in his life? He is a very busy man, right? He's a V partner. So he's involved in company operations. He's got teams, and our team is just a very small part. All the people, while we are probably a big team here today, people from over 40 countries attending this, but we are still a very small part of his organization. So just imagine, and he speaks to us, he gives time to, his dad taking care of his daughter. He's got parents who are aging, he takes care of them, right? He's an angel, he's a private equity, he's into private equity, right? Venture capitalist. He's got companies where he's also involved, where he's invested, right? Despite all this, despite having so much work, there has still not, I'm yet to come across a single instance where he's made a commitment that I will do this and he's not done it. That is character. And which is why he's where he is. Super successful, right? So I realized that I would work hard, but the moment things would get better, good weeks, I would take it easy, right? And if I made a commitment to someone, it was okay to go back on that commitment. I would justify in my head that it's okay. I'll do it tomorrow, day after, right? And I realized that was the biggest reason why the business went down. No other reason, actually, right? So the question is, how does one build character? What do we need to do? Because without that, it's not going to happen, right? So first of all, who are you spending time with? Very, very, very important, right? It's a very important decision. You may not realize it right now, but it plays a very big role in what you become, right? For example, let me, on a lighter note, when I took admission in college in my undergrad days in Manipal, hotel management, right? And I went to hostel and, I was unpacking in my room. And there's this person, suddenly, a short person with specs, he walked in and he said, he was from Chennai. He said, I'm Rama and I'm your new roommate. So I said, okay. I shook hands with him and he said, I was unpacking. He says, can I help you unpack? I said, sure. So he started helping me unpack, right? And there was a book, which I don't know where it had come from, How to Prepare for MBA. Honestly, I'd never really thought about preparing for MBA, but that book happened to be in my suitcase. And while he was unpacking, he looked at it and he said, oh, you want to do an MBA? Even I want to do an MBA. We'll study together every night. And I looked at him and I said, oh God, here I've come to have fun, have a great time. And this guy is already talking about studies. I found a reason to throw him out, got someone else as my roommate who was worse than me, right? Even more insincere, even more lost, right? Won't name him because he's an upline to some of you. He's never been active in the business, signed up long back. But the point is, if let's say Rama had been my roommate, and he would study, and he was very diligent, he was very clear. And do you think my life would have been the same in those 3 years with him as my roommate? It would have been a little different, With my new roommate, with the actual roommate, we would keep pulling each other down. One guy would even at times say, "Chalo, let me go to class on time." The other person would make fun, and then both would end up not going to class. I got suspended from college multiple times because of him. Right now, if I had been with Rama, I would have looked at Dhire, I would have seen his work ethics. Some change would have happened. I would have thought about it and probably started duplicating it to an extent. And if I was surrounded by more people like him, definitely I would be a very different person. Right? See, we say your company decides who you become, right? Who do you hang out with? That decides. If you're surrounded by people who are always in trouble, you'll also be in trouble. If you're surrounded by people who are ambitious, who are working hard towards becoming something, right, you will also become like that. Right? So the question is, and again, this is something, a question you need to ask yourself. Who do you associate with? Now we are all in the business, we associate. So first of all, are you associating more with people in the business or more with people outside the business? Right? And even in the business, there are lots of people. See, it's a lot of people come into the business. Does everyone have the same commitment levels? No. Does everyone have the same character? No. So we make friends with cross lines, especially in informal associations. We get to know each other. IIT, you become batchmates, right? You start. Now, now you need to be very conscious and ask the person that you're spending a lot of time with talking to, what is the character of the person, right? Is that person committed? Is that person consistent? Is that person positive? Doing the right things, talking about the right things. Because you will get influenced. You might tell yourself, I will not, but we all get influenced. Constantly, we are influenced by people around us, either positively or negatively. And that's something we can't stop, right? The only thing we can do is we can choose who to spend most of our time with. Right? So when you talk about the business, some discussion happening, do you get a negative response from people? I'm not saying the person is bad. Probably they also don't realize. But what they're saying, is it discouraging you or is it motivating you? Their actions, is it setting the right precedent or is it leading you in the wrong direction? Because you will have, in the association, you will have people who have the right character, or at least are working towards building the right character, right? Identify such people, start associating with them. Yeah. You might have multiple uplines, right? Spend more time with people who have the right character, who are working on themselves, constantly doing something to improve. Because if you have the right character, you cannot be the same person. Let's say even in a year, what you were a year back and what you become after a year will be very different. Because the right character means consistency, discipline, doing something again and again and again. So obviously you will keep getting better. It's like simple. If you decide to go to the gym every day and you do it for a year, every day you go to the gym. 1 year later, will you look the same the way you looked 1 year back? No, not possible. You'll be very different, right? You may not have become Arnold Schwarzenegger yet, but you'll be very different from what you were a year back, right? And belief system will also change. And that discipline that has come into one aspect of your life, gradually it will percolate to other aspects of your life. It'll start percolating. That same discipline will start coming in because the character is getting built. And it said the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So incidentally, I was, this morning, my wife, her name is Priya, she came and I was just getting ready and, I have to take the system. I was thinking what to talk about. And she came and she said, I don't feel like going to the gym today. Can I skip it? So I said, up to you. Why do you want to skip it? She said, I did yoga 2 days. That day I went to the gym. Today I just feel maybe I should take a break. I said, I'm thinking this is exactly what I want to talk about in the system today, about building the character. Right. And she said, you're talking to other people. What about building your own character first? So I said, fair enough. Yes, I am not where I should be. But haven't you seen a change? So tell me in the last 1 year, how many days did I not exercise? Because every day, the last 1 year at least, I don't miss. Every day, either I play tennis or I play soccer or I go to the gym or I swim. So how many times have you seen me miss? She said, no, you've become very consistent there. I said, how many times have you seen me miss pranayam in the morning? She thought about it. She said, no, you've become very consistent. And she said, what about the other aspects? I said, the other aspects. Have you seen a change? Yes, I'm far away from where I should be. But am I not better than where I was 1 year back? She thought about it. She said, yeah, there is an improvement. And very soon, next I see her, she's in a gym clothes, going to the gym, right? So the point I'm making is that there is a long way to go. No one's perfect, right? But once you start building character, a year from now, sometime from now, you'll be very different from where you were. right? And it starts with picking one small thing, something that is important, something that you probably wanted to do, or that this is important for me, either for my happiness or my mental peace or for my business. Pick up something and start doing it. And don't be very ambitious, right? So, and all these learnings I've had with my interactions with VP Sachin. He said, don't try transforming everything overnight. It will not work. But those small changes, do pick up one thing and keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. So initially, you'll have to push yourself to do it, right? So, for example, on my fitness, at times my body would hurt. It would, I would tell myself, I would also try and give myself reasons. Ki nahi yaar, today nahi, my muscles need to rebuild, all that. But I had to push myself. So initially, you'll have to push yourself to bring in that consistency. After some time, but if you keep pushing yourself, after some time, it will become a habit. It will become easier, right? And eventually, it will become character, right? And once it becomes your character, right, gradually you'll start seeing changes in your life, because that character will, from one area, it will percolate to the second, to the third. You'll see that consistency in every aspect of your life, right? So I want you to watch a video, and a short video. I watched this and it made a lot of sense to me, right? Avi, can we have the video, please?
A few years ago, I felt like I was stuck in a rut. So I decided to follow in the footsteps of the great American philosopher, Morgan Spurlock, and try something new for 30 days. The idea is actually pretty simple. Think about something you've always wanted to add to your life and try it for the next 30 days. It turns out 30 days is just about the right amount of time to add a new habit or subtract a habit, like watching the news, from your life. There's a few things that I learned while doing these 30-day challenges. The first was, instead of the months flying by forgotten, the time was much more memorable. This was part of a challenge I did to take a picture every day for a month, and I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing that day. I also noticed that as I started to do more and harder 30-day challenges, my self-confidence grew. I went from desk-dwelling computer nerd to the kind of guy who bikes to work for fun. Even last year, I ended up hiking up Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. I would never have been that adventurous before I started my 30-day challenges. I also figured out that if you really want something badly enough, you can do anything for 30 days. Have you ever wanted to write a novel? Every November, tens of thousands of people try to write their own 50,000-word novel from scratch in 30 days. It turns out, all you have to do is write 1,667 words a day for a month. So I did. By the way, the secret is not to go to sleep until you've written your words for the day. You might be sleep deprived, but you'll finish your novel. Now, is my book the next great American novel? No, I wrote it in a month. It's awful. But for the rest of my life, if I meet John Hodgman at a TED party, I don't have to say, I'm a computer scientist. No, if I want to, I can say, I'm a novelist. So here's one last thing I'd like to mention. I learned that when I made small, sustainable changes, things I could keep doing, they were more likely to stick. There's nothing wrong with big, crazy challenges. In fact, they're a ton of fun, but they're less likely to stick. When I gave up sugar for 30 days, day 31 looked like this. So here's my question to you. What are you waiting for? I guarantee you the next 30 days are going to pass whether you like it or not. So why not think about something you have always wanted to try and give it a shot for the next 30 days? Thanks.
Okay, so how many of you want your lives to be very different by the time 2024 ends? On every aspect, financially, in terms of habits, skill sets, in terms of things that you do. Right? Everyone wants, right? I'll tell you, it starts now. So first of all, there's never a right time. Now, even when I'm speaking, let's say we decide on something, some of you might be fooled into saying, I will do this, but maybe from next month. So first of all, there's never a right time. If you want to change your life, it has to happen now, right? No matter what the circumstances, right? So let's first step towards building character. Let's, when we keep saying discipline, consistency, it might sound a little boring. Let's make it exciting, right? Let's, as the speaker, you just watch the video, let's call it a 30-day challenge, right? Let's identify, two things. One to do with this business and one personal. So personal could be anything, could be health related, could be mind related, meditation, it could be spending time consistently with, I don't know, you decide, right? Maybe something that you've always wanted to do, like he was saying, writing a novel. You could be wanting to learn to play an instrument, play some sports, learn something, right? So, but don't get very ambitious. The trick is don't try and write something which will not be met, right? It should be something simple, right? Which, whatever come what may, you'll be able to do consistently for 30 days. So don't say I'll run 5 kilometers every day. Maybe not required. Maybe 10 minutes. Just a jog for 10-15 minutes. But no matter what, even if it's rain, storm, whatever, you will still do it. Right? So that's, and something to do with the business. Now with the business, you decide again. So let's say I think the first thing anyone, the rice bowl of the business is info calls. If you're making enough info calls every day, you can't go wrong. You will get those responses. You will have plans. You will have signups. So maybe info call. But again, it's your decision. Maybe you decide what you want to improve. Consistency. So it could be that I will speak to make 3 fresh info calls every day for the next 30 days. Or if some of you who feel you're facing a challenge with your name list, right? Maybe connect with 2 new people every day. Make new friends. Go out, meet, get 2 new numbers every day. So you decide, right? But write that down right now. Take that decision now, because if I leave it, it'll never happen. Right? So have you thought about it? 2 things, simple things. Right? Now understand, there's no one here to track you in this. It's your decision, it's your life. Right? I think we've got so used to being spoon-fed that when that spoon feeding doesn't happen, now this is your baby. Right? Because I can guarantee you, whatever you've decided, if you actually do it for 30 days, consistently, without missing a single day, something will change here. Right? Your perception about yourself, your confidence in your own abilities, right? It will change. It will start change. And that first a habit will start getting formed. In 30 days, a habit will get formed. 3 info calls, let's say you do every day, 30 days. It'll become a habit. You'll keep doing it every day, even after that. Obviously, business will turn around. But more importantly, that habit, if you continue that, right, it'll turn into character. Come what may, I will do this. And like I said, that character, it'll percolate to every aspect of your life. You will become a person who, once they decide something, they do it. Come what may. Right? You'll see your relationship with family will change. Finances will change. Your health will change. You'll be more at peace. You'll be full of confidence. You'll become an inspiration to people around you. Right? That is what's going to happen. But like I said, it starts small. Right? All that will happen. Don't think about that. Think about the next 30 days. Whatever you've decided has to be done, no matter what. Right? Every day. And once you finish this in 30 days, send me a message that I finished it in 30 days. And I'll be very, very happy because I know that you're moving in the right direction and you will become truly successful very soon. Right. So thank you so much. Pleasure talking to you. And I just hope that you've taken those decisions, written it down. And I just hope that you will give your 100% towards ensuring that for the next 30 days, you achieve it. Right. So thank you so much. I'll see you soon in week on. Bye-bye.